Welcome everybody. My name's Vicky Hannah. I'm doing the recording for us. This is CHC CSL001, Establish and Confirm the Counselling Relationship. So this unit is about you in the role as a worker in a counselling framework and the model that you're comfortable working with. And keeping in mind, of course, that it is non-clinical work. So your style, your approach, your background, your lived experience all have value here. We often refer to the non-clinical counsellor as the accidental counsellor, where we're trained and to do our active listening and our communication. That's what this unit's going to be mostly about for us, to be able to guide you with what are the key learning outcomes for this unit, and then also for our classes to bring those assessments for you, to be able to guide you of what it is that you need to do. So there's 4 assessment tasks in this qualification, in this unit. So the CHCCSL001 is the unit name. Then there'll be task 1, task 2, task 3 and task 4. Task 1 is the quiz. And then, of course, task 2, 3 and 4 are all role plays, all practitioner skills, 3 different client case scenarios. There's Tom, there's Margaret and there's Rachel. So there's quite a bit that you need to do to be able to go through the instructions, get a feel for that. You've got 1 document to complete with this unit as well. This is more about you discovering what kind of counselling support worker that you are and how to cope with our clients who are coming in and presenting with some quite complex issues as well. There might be some grief and loss. There may be some cultural diversity in there. There may be someone quite young and there may be someone older, different genders. So it can go any way for us in the sector, and this is what we want to be able to bring alive for you. So before we get started, let's do our acknowledgement to country. I'm sorry about that, I went too far. So in the spirit of reconciliation, Hayter Institute of Education acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of this nation and the traditional custodians of the land on which we work, live and study. We express our gratitude for the sharing of this land, our sorrow for the personal, spiritual and cultural costs of that sharing, and hope that we may move forward together in harmony and in the spirit of healing. We pay our respect to all First Nation people and acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. And I would like to extend this acknowledgement out to anyone who might be watching the recording, any of our learners that are part of our Hayter Institute of Education community, and anyone that makes it to classes. But if you can't make it to live classes, know that you are very much a part of our learner community, and you might be working more independently, but the support is there and this acknowledgement goes out to everyone. So a little bit of housekeeping, because this isn't the live class recording. Tonight, we are going to just do back-to-back role plays. We only have this unit for 3 weeks. So week 2 is where we make sure that we get the skills out of the way. It is assessor-led, so you must book an assessor for that. I encourage you to come to classes so that you can do those, or to connect with your peers in classes so that you've got people who will be able to do the role play with you as well. So just know that our break times in classes are very I guess really interactive. We do breakout rooms, but the breakout rooms are specific to it, or we might find ourselves really highly in skills area. We have respectful relationships, good, healthy professional boundaries. When we come to class, you've come to work, and so have I. My role and my responsibility is to make sure that I give you enough information and knowledge to be able to progress your studies. So a good class is the one that gives you that confidence to be able to tackle your assessments. But some content can be triggering, and we want you to take care of yourself. You'll get this recording and you'll be able to watch that in bite-sized pieces. So depending on how you like to study, if you're the sort of person that's methodical and does so much each day, that's great. Definitely, I am not that student. But find your style. With a diploma, it's 18 months. That includes your 200 hours somewhere in work placement. Might be where you already are working if you're in the sector, or HADA will arrange a work placement interview for you if you're happy with that. Otherwise, you can find your own work placement if you like. So the work placement is something that you must do. Those 200 hours also have additional assessments. There are 21 assessments in a full diploma. You have the 18 months. We take a break at the end of the year, but otherwise, if you're consistently working away at it, it's somewhere between that 15 to 20 hours a week, including watching the recordings and that as well. So we're going to be doing role plays tonight, but we're not recording those. But we may record some of them in our final week, which will be jumping into next week. So that will be week 1 is the overview of the course. Week 2 is practitioner skills, we call them role plays. And then of course, week 3, more practitioner skills, because out of 4 assessment tasks, 3 of those are all based around your skills. So this is very much a skills unit, and it's essential if you're going to be counselling somebody and being their caseworker, then you really need to know how to communicate with them. Okay, so to communicate effectively, identify what might be barriers, theirs or your own, some bias or unconscious bias, and how to overcome those in the client-counsellor relationship. There's also some self-reflection around this, which is very important for you, your self-care, and I guess when you're stepping into that space, to make sure that you're going to be okay with your client's story as well. Your relationship, you'll set that up. So you'll need to explain clearly in the beginning, this is my role. You work for a simulated workplace environment when you're doing your assessments. So you'll introduce yourself. You'll say what your role is with First Access. You'll explain what your role does. And then you'll move over to doing your privacy and confidentiality and consent to continue working with them. You must have that each and every time you work with a client. So we talk about the privacy and confidentiality at the very beginning, not once we've already started. Consent means that they fully understand that everything that they say here may be reported if there's a risk to themselves or other people. So at the beginning, they absolutely have informed consent, because they then get to choose whether they're going to be sharing information or certain information with you, especially if this is your first session, which this one is, intake and initial assessment. So you'll define what their expectations are and yours as well. Establish that professional relationship with healthy professional boundaries, and you'll provide the required service. Whatever they've come in through the door for, what their expectation is, why they have come to see you, is that they're going to present you with something that they're not able to cope with on their own at the moment. There are times where clients are actually mandated to come to you rather than by choice, or they're there because someone at home said, if you don't go, things look very different. And so they may be reluctant. That doesn't mean that you won't still do your work. If someone says, I have to be here because my probation officer told me I had to be here, it's part of that anger management program that I'm working on, or I've had a brush with the law, you can say, and absolutely, I will write down that you've attended. But if I'll also write down whether you engaged in this. Now, to be fair, it takes time. You've got to make sure that you're a good fit for each other as well. It would be reasonable to think that not every worker is going to be the perfect worker for every client. So the client always has the right to change their worker if that's what they want. We need to be agile in that space and be able to pivot. What I love about doing our practitioner skills in class is even if you're doing the exact same role play as your peers, your style will be completely different. And of course, you'll have peer review, some feedback, and a direct assessment. So it's all done then and there in classes. So if you struggle from time to time and you go, oh, just putting these role plays off, this is one you just have to have. It's one of your foundational skills. You know, if you've got a calling where you really want to work in this field, well, you need to be able to have that qualification to be able to say, look, I'm ready and I'm qualified, but we want to make sure that you are confident when you go into work placement or when you start doing your casework with your clients. So you'll be ready. So the 3 clients that do come in have all come in with their own story, and I'll share those with you soon. So in the course of your client communications, you may experience that there's some barriers. They may not know that that is a barrier. It may have no intention whatsoever behind that. But you'll need to look at what might be those invisible ones, and we can't be the barrier to our clients either. So communication barriers may include maybe English is another language, it could be like that. Or it could be that you've studied and you're aware of what those words are, you write them all the time in your assessments, if you're in the sector, you use them, and they become fairly normal for us, but it won't be normal for our client. So we need to pitch at wherever the client is up to. We need a bit of information about them, and in the counselling session, we do write notes. But at the intake, we just want to get a little bit of information from them. So with every role play, there's a document and it's the client one. Just make sure that with the document, it says, it asks a question. If the answer is yes or no, it won't quite be sufficient. If they say yes to something, then add something to that. Imagine that someone else who's never met the client is going to read that. They need to get a bit of a story around it. So you could say the client presented with these 3 issues. You don't know that to be a fact because you weren't there, but the client stated is what our file notes look like. At the intake form, though, it's not a narrative, but it is helpful to have bullet points. Things that the person can pick that up very quickly and go, okay, great, they're my next client. Because you may hot desk with people at work. You may not have an ownership over your caseload. It could be whoever is booked and they're going to see whoever. So you will be absolutely reliant on your peers and your colleagues making sure that their file notes are helpful for you. Because the next time they come in, if all we've got is like yes or no answers, they've got to start again. And then the client, of course, goes, oh, I'm tired of telling everyone my story over and over again. In fact, I'm re-injured every time I talk about this trauma that I'm dealing with. So even in that space, we need to make sure that our language, the energy, and how we approach that being fully present for our clients is to meet the client's need. That's what client-centered or person-centered is. That's it in action. So it could be age. So it's not about us, it's about making sure that we meet our clients where they are, provided it's safe to do so. So everyone's got rights. Their human rights. So all people have the right to life and liberty and freedom and recognition as a person equal before the law. Protections against slavery, torture, cruelty and discrimination, part of them. Discrimination covers quite a lot of things, but then we cannot discriminate on ability or differing abilities, language, someone's neurodiversity, their socioeconomic area, the postcode that they live in, the age that they are. All of those through that lens, if you've got your own personal views, they get left in the car park. And then when we walk in, from the moment we walk into the building, we're in a professional relationship with our employer, whether you are a volunteer, whether you're on work placement, or whether you are a worker. So communicate effectively. You are the one who is facilitating the relationship, and through the selection of and the use of your micro skills. So what we've got is a counsellor sitting with a young person and they're doing that outside. And that's often a common place where young people can feel hemmed in, but some people with mental health issues can as well. So as much as you might really love the room that you set up for them, they may be agitated or fidgety or feeling trapped. Leaving a door open, checking what it is that makes them feel comfortable. Consider all of those aspects, depending on what the client's needs are. You may not have all of that information that we've provided you with the scenario instructions. That might be discovery that you have yet to do with a brand new client. But for this purpose, because we reduce the time, we also give you background information. So you've got a great stepping off place to do those practitioner skills. So effective communication requires more than just an exchange of information. Our receptionist or the person on admin can do that. So if someone just wants to know where they can go to get some extra support, rather than a full session and a referral, the person at the front desk could really assist with that. The difference is, though, for you, is that they're coming in and they might want some information, but you're going to go a little deeper than that. You want to, and your clients want you to go deeper. That's the difference between you and the front office with all the brochures out there, which people could come in, grab themselves and make that call. If they're there to see you, they're there to be supported by you. That is an absolute. So they may not be ready to be supported, but they walked in the door, and that needs to be acknowledged. So communication, if we get it done right, it strengthens the relationship, improves teamwork, and builds trust. So to perform effective communications in counselling, the knowledge and appropriate use of those communication skills, or your micro skills, for counselling are essential. When we do the role plays, we are assessing you on exactly that, your micro skills, what you say, what you do, your body language, your non-verbal, your posture, your tone, how you are presented, your contact, your eye contact. Is it appropriate with this person, not appropriate with another? Am I in the confronting position when I'm working with them? If you're doing your role plays, you'll be doing this one with an assessor live. That's very important. But the role plays that you record on your own, you need to make sure that when you're in that recording, you are at all times on the screen, because for this very reason, we need to assess your micro skills, your non-verbal. If you record it and you do that in cloud, or you don't have it set into gallery, you will only see the person as they speak if you're remote. Unless you're both sitting in the room and you're a metre apart, you'll position your camera equipment or your phone, if you're recording it from your phone, you'll set all of that up. Make sure you test your sound and your visual. When you're actually recording, not this one, but in others, just know that you need your phone in portrait, because landscape is not effective and it doesn't upload as well. Also introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Vicky Hanna and I'm going to be doing the unit A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And this is task 2 of 4. My student ID number with HADA is 123456. And today I have someone playing the client for me. They're a peer from my class, or they are a member of the public. And we're going to be doing this scenario. You'll talk about the scenario. The client that I'm about to see is this, or the situation is that. If it says that your role play is no greater than 10 minutes, you must understand that that means your role play is 10 minutes, not over 10 minutes. But it's not 3, it's not 2, it's not 5, it's not even 7. It might be 8.5 or 9. If you have every one of those things in your role play that we need to be able to assess, and I'll show you what we assess you on for this as well. So there's some amazing resources for you when you get to your practitioner skills. Go to your announcements section in your portal, or contact learner support officers at HADA by email, and I'll give you all that information at the end. So look, your micro skills in counselling are attending, active listening, which is nodding. Okay, that sounds hard. There are reflective, prompting that we do, but we may not be saying anything, but we could be saying volumes by not speaking. You need to tame your advice monster. That is not your role. Your role is to get your client working, if they're comfortable to do that, and start sharing their story. And that changes, of course, for that person. And it may even be on that day, or from the last time you saw them, there could be other things going on and they're feeling really tense. But if we don't work with them and collaborate with them, we're not in a rush to move to the next thing. Connection and engagement is mandatory in this space. To be an effective worker, you absolutely have to have these sector micro skills. All your questions are open-ended, closed if you want consent. So open-ended is the who, what, how, when, where, and why. But when we're asking for consent, that's a yes or a no, or I'm not sure, tell me more about it. They're simple and they're compound. So we make sure that we are making sense, that we don't just merge in as if everybody knows why they're there and what they do. Start at the beginning. And if you've got 5 clients back to back in a day, then you are going to do that with each and every client, whether you saw them 2 days ago or not. You will still make sure, are there any changes? Just previously I explained to you that everything we talk about here is absolutely private and confidential. However, there would be a time where I would need to share information that would be with my line manager around safety. So my safety, your safety, and safety if you're at risk of harm, or the harm from others, or they're at risk, because that is where your mindset is at the moment. I need to let you know that that's my duty of care, to keep you safe and to help and support you. So I would need to share that information. And is there anything more that I can talk to you about with that? No, I totally understand. Then you still need consent. So would it be okay if we continue to work together today? That's it. So I used an open-ended question. Would it be? I was wondering if we're seeking consent in a soft, non-authoritative way. What we don't want to do is say, well, if you say anything that's going to harm somebody, or you're going to say, I'm going to have to report it, that is not our relationship there. You can have healthy professional boundaries. You can be assertive if someone is stepping or testing those lines. Absolutely, you're the one facilitating this space. This is for you to manage, and you should start out how you intend to finish. Otherwise, those boundaries get blurred. The relationship becomes one of an imbalance of power, or an attachment, or codependency. So it's extremely important how we approach this with our clients at this stage of it, our setting this pace for the counselling framework, and to make sure that you're establishing a relationship of trust, mutual respect in that space. So we reframe we take notes and we reflect back, we focus, and we use our observation skills, things like, yeah, what I'm seeing is I'm just wondering, are you comfortable at the moment? Can I get you anything? Oh, look, traffic was mad. I just need to catch my breath. Let's do that. Okay, so just check in with them. Don't rush. Okay. And then remember the acronym WAIT, WAIT. Why am I talking? When really our role is to get our clients talking. So the practice standards, you will find them under the National Practice Standards for the Mental Health Workforce as 2013, and applies to nursing, allied health professionals, psychology, social work, and yes, you who's doing non-clinical counselling. So we have an integrative communication where the principles of effective communication are put into our work practices. Your qualification requires your knowledge evidence, which is often your written research, case studies, sending emails, all the machinations that we have in a day, or all what we're employed to do. Even having a conversation with the client can still mean work afterwards, the same as when I'm doing role plays, I still have administrative work afterwards to provide the evidence. So we still do that. Everybody in every role has that transparency and accountability where we're monitored and measured, because oftentimes we work with clients, just you and the client. So we need a way to have a record of events without breaching the Privacy and Confidentiality Act. So I always like to tell the client, I'm just making notes here. This client file belongs to you, and you can read anything that I have in this file at any time if you would like to. I'd be happy to share it. So make sure that what you put in your file notes is something that you would be happy for your client to read, or a magistrate that subpoenas those documents. So really think about your documentation. When you're doing a role play, what you write and what you do in a recording must mirror each other, must duplicate. Exactly. So if you've got amazing written in the role play afterwards, you've got to write all these things, but your role play didn't have those things, the written can't be assessed until the role play matches that knowledge. So your role play is your skills, your written is your knowledge. Your knowledge and skills must align with each other. So it's great to get feedback if you're doing recordings. I like to do that in live classes. I'll get peer review and have the rest of the learners come in and say what they liked about it, because it's a shared learning space, a live class. So there's some of the principles and practices to cover. How we communicate is we can send some information, the other person's got to filter it with their lens. Are we on the right channel, or is it just a lot of noise and I don't know what to do with it? I don't get it. And then we may have to decode it, which is like, you know, would you like me to go over any of those? So make sure you go to the Shannon Weaver model. That's research for you to do. And then how they receive it. And if they haven't got it, then we circle back to that. So Laswell's model of communication is the who says what in which channel to whom and with what effect. So how did that land? There are two people in this space, in this particular unit, the client and yourself. And we need to know you're okay. So what are factors that impact communication? Participants, rules, messages, our channels, our wavelength. You might hear expressions like we're all singing from the same song sheet, or we're all on the same page, things like that. That's what that means. Or, you know, I've heard a learner say in our role plays for this one, you know, they read the room really well. Love that. You know, that's, I'm watching, I'm looking, I'm getting an energy feel based on that. So while some people might go, oh, that's my gut instinct, your gut is giving you knowledge and skills that you have. It could be a positive thing, but it could also be a triggering thing for you as well. So we need to be aware of what's happening for us in our body, the same as what we're observing Is the client comfortable? Or are we just making noise? How are we going to know we're hitting the right channel and we're all tuned in? Ask your client. I was just wondering, how are we going? This is, you've been here for a little while. We've covered some of those things. You're going to summarize it. Have I missed anything here? Did I understand that correctly? How would I know? Put all those open-ended questions in there. What's important is your duty of care. You have a duty of care to your client, to yourself, to your colleagues in the workplace, and the organisation that you are working for. That's your legal contract. You signed a contract. I will. They signed a contract and said, we will. So the observation techniques are your facial expressions. I'm a neurodivergent ADHD person, and I have some sensory challenges. Two carpets have to be exactly the same pattern for me, otherwise I think I'm stepping into space. So mine's quite spatial, especially coming down from stairs and landing. I don't always know where the floor is. We need to know those things. Just come in, sit down, take any chair. For some people, especially ASD3, that's like pick up the chair and take it somewhere. So you might know what you mean, but it is absolutely of no use if your client doesn't know what you mean. So think about not your experience, think about how am I going to say this so that we're making connection and engagement. That's what I'm looking for when I'm assessing anyone who's doing these role plays. So your posture and the pauses that you have in silence. Seen one learner do this one, and the client was fairly agitated, and she applied a mindful technique of the breathing. And that was great. I loved that she had something in her toolkit there to be able to offer that space and help them feel calm and regulated enough to be able to have more of a conversation. You can't have that connection with people if they're really heightened or really flat. Sometimes if someone is just, the hardest thing they did was walking through the door, then that's a great achievement, and we acknowledge what they have done, and we continue to do that positive reinforcement in a non-judgmental way. I'll let you read those case notes. The practice standards there are AASW, which is the Australian Association of Social Workers, and the standards for 2013 provide some really good broad guidance around how you need to be managing this space. The client, culture, religion and spirituality, those things, body, mind and soul, some people refer to it. What's the risk and the resilience, their capacity to even do some of these things. Walking through the door of a Centrelink office can be a real anxiety trigger for some people. So we don't know. We might rapidly say, look, I'll refer you over to this place. But when was the last time you went to that place and you checked out what the services were like for yourself before we start referring our clients over? So we need to really think about this. I am referring them over, but that's not where your responsibility ends. Is it an appropriate fit? And if our clients are vulnerable or there's differing abilities or diversity, will they just go, oh, they're really lovely, but they sent me to this place and nobody knew anything about it. So we can't just do a referral. A seamless referral pathway circles back. You will be that lead worker, and you will navigate that space and all the supports that you think sit around them, the ones that the client has, the ones that they build along the way, and then of course the referrals. That is not, oh, I know 3 places, you've named 3 things you want to do, and then send them on. That isn't what this is. This is counselling, non-clinical, but we don't let them go. We want them to be able to feel comfortable so that they come back. And if they don't, want you to be comfortable and confident that you did everything you needed to do, and the timing is not right for that client in that moment of time. It's their decision-making cycle, not ours. So if you've got a record of non-attendance, like I said, like it might be that it's mandated and somebody has to be there. You can say that's fine. I'll put down here that you did attend, and thank you so much for that. But I'll also be writing that you didn't engage with the program, if that is court ordered or if that is a requirement or condition around their probation and parole. You're going to be a community sector worker. You will work with people who are victims, people who are survivors, people who have AOD issues, people who are young, people who have mental health issues. The community service qualification, especially at diploma level, is a foundations qualification. So the other topics step off from there. So you might have an area where you go, I'd really like to work in this field. Well, that'll be your area of interest. If you're doing Diploma of Community Services, you've got broad knowledge and depth, and that's what you're going to do. Your capacity to be able to get your client to go to that place, which we like to refer to as, and what else? And so there's going to be some scenarios that come up where there's opportunities to prompt that as well. I'll talk to you about those. So any evidence from a social worker or you, a community sector worker, support worker, you'll be given lots of titles. Sometimes it's, you know, if you work in any of the job networks, it's a client manager or a client coach now, you know, like they're just labels, and we know labels belong on jars. So don't get caught up in like, oh, I'm not doing social work, I'm doing community services. Your file notes, if I was writing a note, I'd say spoke to SW, that social worker, or I spoke to CS, caseworker, or CSW, CSO for child safety officer. We use acronyms all the time. They're our notes to be able to decipher. But when we're talking to our clients, they don't know any of that. Excuse me. So you're in teams of 4, the counsellor role, client note taker role. And this is if we were doing a practice run in a breakout room. So the client relationship issues, self or others, wish to talk to someone about it. That's what the client is. Like, I'm stuck, something's going on, or someone thinks I'm stuck and thinks something's going on. They want us to come and talk to you. So, and then the counsellor, that's you use your micro skills, your communication techniques, including your active listening and summarising, and your questioning skills, your prompts to try and help them open up. You are a note taker as a counsellor as well when you're doing your file notes, and that's why we give you one form to fill in. And then if we were doing a practice run observer, if we do the role plays in live classes, your observers are your peers. And then I ask them to not just observe, I ask them to do a peer review. What did they do well? Rather than, you were amazing, which bits did you like the most? And that's the same micro skill that we would use with our clients, to get them to expand upon that, rather than say, oh, they're amazing, you're awesome, do all of that. Absolutely. Icing on the cake. But you know what's really helpful is if you say, I really like the way you approached, I shared with you, someone did the mindful technique. What models do you use? And you'll need to talk about that. You say, look, we do a wellbeing wheel. If you were working with them a bit longer, depends in your role plays where you go with them and what that client is looking for. But you need tools, and you'll need to be familiar with some tools. I've got a couple of slides to show you. I work in 2 different ones, but in answering these questions, some of them are clinical, but anyone non-clinical can do that. A K10, the case list 10, which means that it's going to ask you a series of questions, and whether they think that you may need to be referred on to be seeing either a psychologist rather than a support worker. But it might be 6 or 8 weeks before they can get in. So we are the in the meantime people. We're the ones that do most of the grunt work. Yeah, but you know, it's also very rich and rewarding. It's highly demanding. You do need to look after yourself. So There's some more slides there for you, and I'll make sure that I share them. So non-verbal communication speaks loudly. I love that. Not the clip art. But I just always think of that saying, you know, like a picture's worth 1,000 words and clip art's worth 25. So yeah, I think we should upgrade that, bring that into 2025. So you're going to look at their emotions and state of well-being and your own agreements and disagreements that have happened historically or currently happening, or you may have them, the strength of the client-counselor relationship, client feedback and thoughts. We've covered a lot today. You've done some amazing work. You give them that positive reinforcement. You may be the only person that has given them that in a very, very long time. I see you, I hear you, I am here. Communication will flow, raising a hand to indicate that the person has something to say. We do that if we're in class, that because we're virtual. If it's a small group, then we just wait for the other person to provide a gap for that. In our classes, we have our own communication and Zoom etiquette. People can put things into chat if they're instructed to do so, or they would like to share and communicate with each other. I will ask sometimes for things in chat as a communication, but overall, though, I see chat as your space. Okay. But if I'm doing something, then I'll try and share that for you as well, or give you an instruction. It's funny, the younger the client that you have, the more they'll go, oh, miss, can I say something? And then responding to their needs. Getting an understanding of how they receive their information. Are they very visual person? Are they auditory, mostly learn by listening? Or are they kinesthetic, tactile, hands-on? I learn by doing. And so sometimes it's good to watch someone else do a role play and you go, that made sense. When I read it on the page, I just couldn't make it come alive. So there's more than one way to learn, and most of us need all three. So the different types of counselling contexts. So in my day work, I use a lot of CBT, DBT. I definitely work with that mindfulness space. I work with wellbeing wheels, but I can, and alliance circles, there's a couple of techniques. Find your own, do some research. What tools can I have that instead of me being the one who is all knowing and has the amazing knowledge, you want your client to be able to do this for themselves and reflect. So teaching them how to do some of these check-ins is great. So I can draw an alliance circle on a serviette in Mappers if I'm making sure someone has something to eat that's homeless and at least it's sheltered. We can go in, there's public toilets, I can give them some food, but I can do an alliance circle on a serviette. So it doesn't have to be fancy, you don't need to have all of the bells and whistles, but you do need to know what the tools will bring into that space. And if you've got them, you need to be able to duplicate that so that the client can go, I can do that for myself. Yeah, do that. Show me you will when you come back in. Here are all the things in it, and let's see if there's any gaps in there. So sleep isn't great. Well, we won't score that very high, and you're a bit isolated. Well, that's not very high. So I can see some gaps here. Are they the things that you would like us to work on? It helps you get to that goal. Some of the principles, your values and theirs, but you'll also have the values of the organisation that you work for. Clients' rights, taking notes, their decision making. That picture, what does that say to you? It's fairly clinical, but it does look like more of a clinical setting, but it could very well be that that GP has just referred the client that you're about to do the role play for. So they rely heavily on community services and non-clinical, because we're the workers. They show that ethical standards and codes of practice in your work are being followed and as required. Your documentation is important, leaving that print and sharing that information. Privacy and confidentiality, absolutely essential. And coming out of this summary is meeting the objectives around this. I'll know that you're doing well in this class and doing this unit because you'll be jumping in and booking in your role plays. So if you do it with an assessor, it's a safe environment. It's the assessors motivated to help you pass in that session. And with this one, even though in live classes we do them, I might have 3 or 4 people all pick the same one out of the 3 that you've got to do. And they'll do that completely differently because they are completely different as people. So don't look at someone else and compare. Don't worry about too much. I know it's important to you, and you will feel a sense of anxiety or nervousness, but look, that is you telling you that it's important. And the more you do, the better you get. But it is essential. It's a mandatory requirement for every RTO that delivers the diploma level. I think there's only one course that we offer that has no work placement, and that's the AOD. And that's because sometimes the clients do not have capacity to give consent or work with you or understand what you're talking about. So part of your work placement assessments are that you're engaging with clients, and that may not make that possible. Okay, so there are actual slides for the unit. And what I'd like to do now is just share some others with us, like my toolbox talks. I'll just go through those really briefly for you. We'll try and get these out to you as well. Now, these aren't hater ones. These are toolbox talks, comes from the sector. So I'll just double check for you. They're all relevant to this unit, CHCCSL001. We're in week 2 of session 2. And for our Diploma of Community Services. So it's the intake and assessment toolbox talk, which is something that each of the trainers like to give you, just that little bit of extra support. That page there, and in your own time with the recording, just blow that up a bit. That's about identifying limiting beliefs. So it's actually good for you to do that for yourself. Oh gosh, have I got a bias there and I'm not sure about, or I never want to work with that type of client. Well, if that's what that organisation has as target group, we cannot turn anyone away. You're a trained professional. When would that come up? If there's conflict of interest, if it's a family member, or you're part of their problem in their world, according to them. So that would not be appropriate. But, you know, we work from the space of victim and offenders. Most people have a lived experience, and it's very common for a victim to that offender cycle. Very common. So it's important that we look at our own style as well. Do we have any limiting beliefs? Are we our own barrier? Are we their barrier? So your session overview is going to be understand and intake and assessment fundamentals around counselling, apply priority of needs across the service area. So we ask what the client would like to get out of our session because that's their goals. And so their goals become your goals and my goal. So we practice decision-making models with the client. So they say, I could never approach them like that. We'll practice it. You get to do role plays when you're in case management. So you're really stuck. All right, we're going to do some practice runs. Just do them with me here, you know, it's safe, you know, so create that safe environment, push through some of the pressure and tension that you have, with doing the role plays. But, you know, being held accountable and transparent is absolutely what you're going into. And you must do your skills, because you're about to go in and hear some very vulnerable stories and work with some very vulnerable people from time to time. And so you need to have these skills to be able to manage that for yourself. Identify any gaps in your knowledge or in the service or in referral processes. Check that those referrals are good for the client that you're working with. So my wheel of balance doesn't look like that when I draw it, hand draw it, but you'll be able to blow this up and have a really good look for yourself. Just see if I can make that a little bigger for you. Okay, that might be a little bit easier to expand your screen when you're watching this. So it's your life wheel balance or your well-being balance. It's called a couple of different things. So in here, one of the things is if this is 1, and that's 2, and that's 3, and that's 4, and that's 5, and that's 6, and that's 7, and that's 8, and you can only fill that up to number 3, then from 3 to 8 is the gap, and that'd be a goal. If it is a goal, the timing might be in the future. We don't know. The only person that knows is the client. So they may not have anybody around them. So that will be very low in that number there. But I draw it, mine's like a bicycle wheel, pretty rough and ready, but it explains it in simple terms. And I will just say, you know, who have you got around you to support you? And, you know, have you ever had counselling in the past? How long ago was that? Did you find that it was helpful? What is it exactly that's going on for the client? We start to build a tool around it. I want to know what tools that you worked with, and I'll see that in your document when you fill it in for the clients. Okay, so I did when I was watching in our live classes, people, they were using tools. They may not have known what they were using, but they were using things like ORS, open-ended questions. They're the kind of tools that we're talking about. But you need to know what you're doing. You're that practitioner. That's your evidence-based practitioner skills. That's the difference between a professional and someone who is just a really good listener, where people come and share their stories. You're doing that in a professional setting. So do you get enough rest? Are you connected spiritually to something, your mental and emotional health? I kind of like bundle my spokes in a little bit tighter than that. Are you physically fit? Are there any barriers for you? What could you do that was within their means? Community relationships. The reason why this wheel is there with lots of different things to find out with our client, it's mostly to find out, are there gaps? Where can we support them best of all? And maybe they hadn't reflected for themselves. It's like, is there a time where you have been able to exercise? And was that helpful for you? And did you know that your mental health can really improve by walking 3 times a week for 30 minutes and changing the pace every couple of, you know, like 4 minutes is supposed to be what they do. But, you know, walk a little faster and then take your time, walk a little faster and take your time. That type of exercise will start to give you that mindful mental health well-being feeling. We've got to get our dopamine from somewhere. Most people, depending on their ages, but I see grown people do it too. Most people, this is where they get their dopamine fix. They get that from their phone. And it hooks people because it's like, oh, I'm relaxed. My mind's not thinking about anything else. I'm just looking at this thing, depending on what they're looking at. Does that trigger them and make them angry? And then do they go down the rabbit hole with it? Or do they watch TV and binge watch, you know? So there's lots of different things that take people away from doing some of that physical exercise. So park the car a little further away if you've got a car, or walk around your backyard, anything like that. Just doing something physical is good for the mind. So the body keeps score when we're in that state of anxiety or depression, or if we're dysregulated. So that's my wheel of balance. I said I can do it at a Macca's. So priority of needs by the sector. So community services, what are your clients going to ask for? Things like housing, DV support, legal needs. If it's youth work, it's usually school disengagement, behaviours of concern and belonging. Mental health, it can be trauma, self-harm, social isolation. If it's addictive type behaviours or AOD, dependency, relapse, risk and treatment, or your client might have every one of those things happening for them, because as a diploma community services, your work is very broad. So you actually need to know a little bit about every other area as well. There's experts in that field, and you can walk beside them and help them find the right person. You'll still stay in that space. You'll be their lead person, and you'll check in. How are you liking going to that? I do. I like it. I've met some people, and we're going to go and have coffee next week. Great. Now we're looking at reducing that social isolation. So there's benefits in referring people on, but not just to refer and let go. It has to circle back. You've got to check in. Are they happy with that? And then also, when you do a referral, you need consent, and you reassure your client exactly what the referral is about and what you're going to say and what you're not going to say. So things that we talk about are private and confidential for us. If you want to share any of that with anybody else, you do that when you feel comfortable. They are in full control of that. So we don't write a whole long story about them. Nothing about me without me is your principle when you're in this space. So be selective what you write down and put into a referral. And even with staff in our organisation, we do not use our clients' names. We do case conferencing. So I've got a client under 18. There might be some other questions that the team will ask. They may even know who I'm speaking about, but I don't talk about that client's name. In ours, we actually refer to them with the code number as well. We're very strict on that privacy. So even if someone wants to complain about another young person in the residential setting, I'll just say, look, I can't talk to you about that. I can talk to you about your stuff and why you're upset about it. How about we work together? And try and move them out of that blame and move them over into what is it that's in your circle of control. Let's work on that so that this other stuff doesn't feel quite as big for you. So don't miss those opportunities to work with the person. You can redirect them out of that headspace. So your life balance wheel, that one's got less spokes. So that's actually much better, but it's still got 10. Mine's only got 8. So I kind of put a few things in together: health and fitness, family and friends, financial and legal, civil engagement. I call that community on mine. Career and work, money and career. And work should be separate if you are working or studying. Home and your social, leisure, for fun. I kind of put that in my social bundle. Personal growth and learning, I usually call that education, lifelong education. And then spiritual reflection and a spouse or a partner. They are all separate entities to us. And of course, that dot in the middle, that's you and that's your client. Actually, don't have them all join right there. Like I said, mine's like a bicycle wheel, and I put them in the middle. I'll write their name in there and I'll do a smiley face, so that they can do that for themselves and they can start filling in some of these. And sometimes we'll just ask for the colouring in pencils at Macca's, or I usually have crayons in my bag, just because you never know. Got a pack of cards as well, however long we're going to be waiting somewhere. They're my tools. They're the things that I have. Your life wheel and your wellbeing wheel, that's a tool that you might like to use. So your intake checklist, what to look for is for housing or food insecurity, DV or relationship issues, substance use or relapse risk, mental health symptoms, and legal, financial, educational challenges. Think of your Maslow hierarchy of need there. Consent and confidentiality. Always check for informed consent. So the information you give them, the consent is they said yes or no, or please tell me more, or who are you going to tell? So we're not there yet until they say, yes, I'm happy to go forward. Explain the limits of confidentiality when you may have to share that. You must do that. That's a requirement. It's under the Privacy Act. Use trauma-informed language, because just because they've come in to seek help does not mean that that feels safe for them. Every time they share their story, they are being re-injured if it's a psychological injury. And then respect identity and autonomy. The person's dignity of risk to be making those decisions, even if there is some harm in that. And then we measure the risk, low, medium, or high. That helps us decide what level. So the tools I use at work, we've got a program called Riskman, and it shows up as green. I'll enter the incident or the matter in there. And then it might go to amber, which means that other people may have eyes on it. And then it might go up to red, and then that's definitely senior management. So your file notes, they're going to want to talk to you about them. Make sure that it's enough information. Your memory will fail you. Mine definitely does. If I've had a week like I had with our change of sudden weather. Events, Queensland, where I sit, on Tarrabaland, Bundaland, it's usually perfect weather, but we get 2 weeks of cold days, and it feel like we've just had a whole week of them, and that's in the whole 12 months. So yeah, I'm a bit shocked with the change of weather. We've had the same low temps as Hader have been having in Melbourne. So service gap identifiers, no local supports are available, or it's a long delay. Cultural needs not met, we need to be able to find other access for them. Client ineligible for the services, they've come in but it's outside of what you do. You do need to know what is a good service provider. We listen rather than, oh no, wrong door. There's no wrong door. Absolutely no wrong door. You are a sector worker. I'm hearing what you're saying. It doesn't sound like that's something that we do, but we partner with some other agencies and they do that work. But what I'd like to do is to help you get connected with those. No rush. What can I help you with today? And if that's really what you need, then they'll cut it short themselves. No, well, I've just come in here, I need a bed for the night. Well, I can make a call for you if you would like. Saves them having to repeat the story over and over again. So wait lists can impact the safety. So you are in the meantime worker. Your method of engagement might be face-to-face, phone check-in, telehealth or Zoom, outreach, home visits, school and youth spaces. I have 3 phones, one personal phone, the other 2 are for different programs. One of them is a 24/7 phone. Texting is very popular with the target group that I work with. But my phone's a smartphone, so I can get my emails on the go as well. And you just need to make sure that you've got your screen on. I have to put a code in every time I open it. And I have 4 VPNs on my phone. You can tell I've got one of my children, adult children, is in cybersecurity. So it's like, you need this, don't get notifications, all of that. If you are going to work like this, you need to consider, how am I caring for that privacy and confidentiality of my client? So these still have guidelines around them as well, but it might be a good method of engagement for them. So not every client has to come into an office. Not every client wants to come into an office. Your alliance circle referral, so who's who in the zoo, who's your wraparound support for the client, who else is in their circle already, and then who would we refer out to? Might be housing, mental health, legal, AOD and DV services, and then document the responsibilities, who's going to do what, the client or you or others, you're doing this together, and then what are the next steps? Look, I think I'd like to be able to work with you and follow up and see how that goes. Well, would you come with me to my appointment? If it's in the scope of your role and it is part of your position description, then yes. You can only work inside your guidelines, but this is where that professional healthy boundary gets put in place, is that you cannot overpromise for people. You may be willing to and want to, but you must always work inside those guidelines. That's what keeps you safe. And that is also your agreement with your employer, even if you are a volunteer, especially if you're a volunteer, and also if you're on work placement. Own goals for the client. So that's your focus planning around there. What matters to the client, what strengths can they build on, and use SMART goals so that they're specific and measurable, and you take those appropriate actions, and that they're realistic, and you've got a timeline on it. So goals and client-led strategies. How ready are they to make a decision to do this? They might just be in that pre-contemplative state, or they're thinking about it, they've got that far, or starting to get some things ready for this, and then doing appropriate action. Action is one thing, but it should be appropriate action. So it's like, yeah, I'm definitely going to do some exercise, and they watch yoga videos or something on their phone. No, it's appropriate action. So yeah, you're getting the knowledge, but you have to put that knowledge into action. And then how do we maintain that thing that we're doing? So sometimes people will feel so good and they love it, and then something happens and they forget that the things that they were doing, that rhythm and that flow, that's what helped them in that recovery or feel better. So we circle back as well, go back to, well, what did you used to do that made you feel good? And is that something that you've done lately? Oh no, I kind of dropped off. I used to walk with a friend. Okay, right, well, we could make our sessions, if you like. There's a great park down the road. We've got a walking group. We don't talk about our private stuff there, but we socialise a little and we stop at a little cafe. So what do you do in the organisation as part of your role? Or take those breaks and say, let's have a break. We've covered a bit of heavy stuff today. How are you? Let's do a check-in, and make sure that you don't leave or have your client leave where they are with you, regardless if it's face-to-face or whether it's telehealth or on a Zoom. Don't leave your client walk out that door with open wounds. You need to summarise it. You need to make sure that you've brought them back into that centered, regulated space, but make it strength-based. The trigger tree, I think you might like this one. This is just toolbox. So yeah, like identifying it, list the feelings that are happening, list the fears. What is that? Recognizing those signs. What is the root source of this trigger? And we want to get there. We want to get to the root cause. That doesn't always happen in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. It takes time. But if your model at work is you can see a client 6 times, you've got your meet and greet, you might need engagement, all be making great traction in that very first intake assessment, which is what we ask for here with this role play, because at least that will get you into that and get your feedback. So what is in your control? What is out of your control? And then how can you soothe yourself right now? So like I said, one of the clients got the breathing thing done by a learner. That was amazing. Love that. But there's other things too, even just the energy you bring into that space or the things that you've got around you. So, you know, no matter what I'm doing, whenever I'm in class, I've always got my fidgets around me, being ND. So mine are all very, very tactile. So they're my latest ones. Yep. So they're they're just little flexible things with lots of different things. They're called worry pieces, but it's soothing to just do that. I have lots of those around me. I've got a clinic that I work out of. I've got a sandbox, I've got a big colouring in on the wall. Everybody has a go at that, even the other agencies, they all put their mark there. And just little things around them that it's a safe space to be in. Sometimes changing the environment can be enough to help people feel regulated. And then write down this as a mantra, but you might have heard of the word affirmation or something like that. I did neuro-linguistic programming as part of my tools and my training, and I kind of like those things. I'll pick an easier one that's, rather than try and learn something that I've got to apply different things. I just say with every breath I take, I get better, better and better. And then I do the breath work in the calming, and I teach my clients to do the same. With every breath I take, I get better, better and better, which kind of takes care of everything. So while we're breathing, things are getting better, and that's a good affirmation. But it has to be already happening. With every breath I take, I get better, better and better. So, but for some people it might be, you know, I'm a strong and independent person, and I look for progress, not for perfection. We need to find, what do we say when we talk to ourselves, and we need to check those words that the clients are using in their own language. We all have around 600 words a minute running around in our head. We need to get some of that out, and we need to do some journaling or just doing some worksheets like this. These are just tools. So when I'm watching you in your role play, did I see you build rapport? Was consent explained clearly? Did you use strength-based questioning? Were own goals elicited? So the client's own goals, what would you like to have happen? When would you like that? Is that too soon or is that further? And did they explore referral options? Did you explore that? That's all I'm looking for in this one, rather than actually do the refer them on to somebody else. So in our breakout rooms in week 1, we kind of spent time together. But what we did in our live class, we actually went a little further and we did the role plays, and we switched it around. Pay the client for someone, and when you're being assessed, you're the worker. So our live classes bring that role play in. If we can do that, we absolutely will. Then reflect, what did I do that went well? What would I do differently next time? Did I stay within the scope of my role? And was the client empowered to lead? Did they have agency over that space? And then we spent more time. We had a lot of peer review. Who was their support? And I heard a lot of that from our live class. What services might be missing? What are the gaps? And we use the wellbeing wheel, but you might have some intentional interviewing questions to do it like that. And then what are the gaps, and what's the next steps for referrals, if we are, to fill those gaps? And it might be that you're referring them back internally into your org to be part of a program like the walking group, and you're part of it. So that's great. You go to work and you get your exercise to look after yourself as well. So you're referring them to an internal program. And some organisations are absolutely really tight over this. We're not as tight in our place because it's residential. So there's some things people know. Someone knows someone's lactose intolerant, not life-shattering, but we wouldn't spotlight that for anyone. But there are some organisations, someone could be at a desk, you know, just 3 meters away from me, and I can't do a referral to them because I've got to send it back up to the organisation and make a recommendation, and then someone else does the referral back in, even though they're just 6 feet away. So, but that if that's how the organisation works, then you work inside those guidelines. It is easier and it makes sense for you to just walk over and build that same relationship. But I know the reasoning behind it is around having good, healthy professional boundaries. And I'll bring that into the classroom each and every time we're together and demonstrate that. And I want you to do the same. So what's my worker style? Just a soft personality one. We did the dope one, which was the dove, the owl, the peacock, and the eagle. We do that more extensively in another one of our units, but just briefly for those of you who have been with Ada for a little while, and those of you who are new, you definitely will be having this. Or you can go in onto the website and do the quiz yourself. It's just under dope, and it stands for dove, owl, peacock, and eagle. And then here I've broken it down into and taken it a little bit further. What kind of workers are they? What kind of worker are you? So the doves are very empathic, peaceful, patient. They're our peacemakers. The owls are quite analytical, logical, and precise. The peacocks are expressive and optimistic and energetic. And then the eagle are bold and decisive and strategic. We did role plays with learners for this exact unit. I saw every one of those personality type workers in there. So which style do you most relate to? And how does this show up in your practitioner skills? So the personal style, reflect on your natural helping style. Strengths and risks do you bring into that space? With the dove, they're empathetic, nurturing, peace-seeking. The owl, analytical, logical, detail-focused. Peacock, expressive, energetic and optimistic, that positive reinforcement. Strength-based. And then, of course, strategic, goal-orientated, assertive. That also kind of tells you what kind of tools you might like to work with as well. So the dove strengths are calm, nurturing. Their weaknesses might be that they avoid conflict. Opportunity builds trust. And their threat could be that they burn out more because they feel it more. That empath stuff is that someone can tell a story and you may wear it like another skin. You need to have those rituals to unpeel that. Journal keeping is the best way to go. Put your thoughts down on paper. The owl, their strengths are they're very objective and very detail orientated. Their weaknesses that they may be rigid. It's quite fixed, like, oh, I can't pivot. I can't move. No, I've got it clear in my mind, and I've built the knowledge around that. Now you're asking me to throw that out and pick something up. Well, they'll want their evidence to support that decision. Opportunity is around planning. And then, of course, the threats are that they may disconnect if they find that things aren't quite right, or they feel, under threat, of course, as well. So that's their safety mechanism. So when someone pulls away, even a client, they all can fit in under these as well. And if you know their strengths, tell them. They love to hear that. Peacock, their strengths are they've got a lot of energy and they've got good energy bringing into the space. Peacocks are great because you know what they're thinking because it just came out their mouth. I love that. So there's no like, oh, I wonder what they mean by that. It's there. It's shared. It's great. It's not better. It's not worse, but it's like there's no guesswork for me. Weaknesses, they can be a bit disorganized. So their desk, their clients, immaculate, file notes, amazing, but their desk might look like parties going on, and all the things on it. Opportunity, they inspire others, and that's where connection sits as well. And the threat is that they may overcommit, always saying, look, I'll do that for you, because that is who they are. They've got energy, but they've got to look after themselves as well. And overcommit can mean overextend for the worker. The eagle, strengths, driven and bold. Weaknesses, impatient. Opportunity, leadership, and threat, miss emotional cues, just fairly myopic. So kind of don't notice other things because they're headed that way. So even as strength, is a weakness if it's too much of it. So what we look for is balance. And when we do our role plays in classes with our peers, when you're in the workplace, you might look at how a colleague does something and you go, you know what, I really like how they did that. I'm going to take that, put that in my toolbox. I really like that style. The idea is that we find a center and a good mix of all of these parts of the personality, but you need to be self-aware. Your way is not necessarily the exact right way that's going to connect. So if you've got an eagle and you're working with a dove, it might feel a little brittle. I have doves in my team, and they'll say things like, you get really clipped in your words when you're under pressure or something, or did you know, and I've known this for a long time, that your concentrating face and my angry face they're exactly the same. So people aren't sure whether I'm actually concentrating and focused on something or whether I'm actually angry about something. So so they'll ask, so how you going, and check in with me. I'll say, oh, I'm a solid 8. I've just got so much on. You want some work? But if I'm frustrated, I'll just say, I just need 10 minutes just to find my center again. Just being aware of, you know, what makes other people tick, but what makes us tick as well. And then adapt, watch what's happening for your clients so you can meet them where they are. And knowing yourself helps you work with others as well. The Kirby one that's actually ours at work, because I'm in the youth sector, and Kirby is our model. It's a framework. So Kirby is know yourself, so self-awareness and reflection. I is integrity in action, ethics and accountability. R is relational recovery, healing through connection, that's DBT, dialectical behaviour. Boundaries that build, they're safe and clear support. And Y stands for you, or youth for us, centered practice. So voice, choice and empowerment. Empowerment's not a word I use a lot, but our team definitely do. And I think that's pretty important for you to know that it's about building your clients up without making too many withdrawals from you, finding your center, being calm and being in that space. So I hope you found this recording helpful. This is for our Diploma of Community Services class. A little bit more information. You've got your learner's guide. If the class next week want to have their role plays recorded, then we definitely will. But it's not one that we need to do, because you still have to come in and work with the assessor. You can come to class and you can observe other people do it, but you might find a smaller group rather than a big class. We have big classes. Not everybody comes on camera for the whole time. Look, if I need to see that you're there if you want to join in, but if you want to log in and be off camera, then stay off camera and you're watching and observing other people. But we are a camera on college, but there's lots of reasons why people need to be off camera. But then I would sort of query, are live classes for you? Are you looking more for the recorded classes and your learner's guide and do it like that? So this is your space. This is your way, your best way to learn. But if you come to classes, know that I'm going to expect you to fit into the class culture. I'm going to ask you questions. I'm going to expect you to wait your turn. I'm going to ask you to put your information into chat. And we're going to run and structure that. I am your trainer in that space, and that is absolutely my responsibility to make sure that people feel heard, that we come in to do the very body of work that people are hoping that they can get out. Everyone is investing their time, and I need to make sure that we're meeting those expectations for you as well. If you're looking for one-on-one, then go to, you can see here, we've got learner support, so LSO at hayderinstitute.edu.au. Book in a one-on-one with one of our amazing learner support officers. If you've got questions about your porthole and a quiz, or something hasn't come up in your porthole, that's their role. They're learner support officers, and there's a team of them. They start at 10 in the morning, they finish at 7 at night, Monday to Friday, and they are amazing, absolutely amazing. But I find an email is a great way to communicate. I think it's reasonable to think that within 48 hours, you might be able to get a response. The phones are always very busy. We call you every month. That's part of our outreach program. You can come to classes. You can email me. I'm happy to do that. Take your information to the learner support officers and say, how do I book a trainer? So any trainer that's qualified can do this assessor-led role play. It doesn't even have to be with me, and you have that choice completely and absolutely. So I like my role plays to be coaching sessions and masterclasses that we come into this space and bring the sector to you. But I am not chalk and talk. So if your slides and my slides don't look exactly the same, it's because they're not. You already have the slides. You don't need me to put slides up and turn the pages and read what you can do for yourself. So I will bring the extra into that space. I'll make it relevant to help you complete your studies and your role plays. Okay, so it's good night from me. I want to say thank you everybody that did do their role plays tonight, and this recording is off the back of that. Everyone that came tonight will get this recording. It'll reinforce and validate what they've done. And for those who are going to be doing role plays next week, unfortunately we are fully booked out next week's class. Those who came tonight who couldn't do it, they will definitely be doing their role plays. But every second Saturday I do role plays. So the 28th is, I think, already booked. There might be 1 hour in the later afternoon. I think maybe 3:30 to 4:30. That's the last appointment. And I start early on that Saturday. So I do that every second Saturday. So mid-July, you know, like you work at your own pace. But if you want something when we're running the unit, I will offer that. And then this one, there's a lot of people who are taking up that option. But if you want a smaller group, you can book that. And some have already done that. And it's your preference, entirely up to you. Or you can tell the LSOs, I need an assessor. I need to do that role play, and you need to have another learner ready to do that, and you can get those learners from Discord. But it must be a peer, and it must be done in front of an assessor. Can't be family or friends, because once you do your part, then you swap and you are the client for them. And so you need to have read through all the instructions and authentically bring that into the space. So thanks everyone. Have an amazing week. I hope that this recording will help you and give you some of that underpinning knowledge and some other helpful tips for your toolbox. And then making sure that you know that next week is our final week on this unit, and that's going to be role plays. You are very welcome to come in and watch other people do that. When they're doing their role play, you go off camera. That is the Zoom etiquette that we have in classes. It may or may not bother some people, but I'm assessing and I need to have my eyes on the non-verbal, those cues. I want to be able to watch that as well. Okay, so task 1 is your quiz, 2 and 3 are your role plays as well, and there is a reflection piece there. So go into Learners Portal and have a look around. And our final class for this unit, the CHCCSL001, getting it right at the end of the class, is the unit that we're currently working on. So task 3 is your role plays. So that's what we're doing next week. So have an amazing week. Thanks everybody. Appreciate your time.